All right, everybody, this is a video that I'm just going to show you how I personally size my projects. If I'm using a different yarn and size matters, like, you know, wearables and such. This looks like it's not really focusing, so bear with me. It's all focused until I start filming, as soon as I hit film. Okay, so if a pattern has a gauge, it makes it so much easier. So this one had one, and this one used the mandala yarn, which was a lightweight 3, okay? I wanted to use a 4, but it's not like a true 4. It's it was the Caron Painterly Cakes, and it is a 4, but I'd say it's on the lighter side of a 4. So to make sure, I went to the pattern where it said gauge. I'm going to cover up most of this pattern. This is not my pattern. I'm going to link it below because it's a phenomenal pattern and you guys will really enjoy making it. It's beautiful. And I have another video, which I'll link below this, that shows you my finished project with this. Okay, so here's her gauge. With a 4.25 millimeter hook, she did 3.5 shells by 8 shell rows. So that's basically saying you chain enough to do 3.5 shells, or you want to measure 3.5 shells by 8 rows. Okay, that's what you want to measure. So you could have a lot more, you can make a lot more shells just as long as that's what you're measuring. Now she said for her that equaled 4 inches. Okay, so this is my swatch. I apologize if you hear my husband's TV in the background. Okay, so this is my swatch. So this would be, I did basically 2 halves and 3 shelves. So I knew I could measure 3.5. I can just go right here. That's 3.5. And I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rows. So I knew I could measure. Okay, so the first thing is I want to see how many inches I have for this. So let's measure. Okay. Of course, my tape measure disappeared. It was here. Okay. So when you measure, so from here up is 8 rows, okay? So that should be 4 inches, and then the width should be about 4 inches. So this is, I'm gonna go from here, because that's a shell, to the end, because that's a half shell. And I'm gonna do it in inches. So mine's about 5 inches, and the 8 rows is about 5 inches. So you see that? That's the 8th row, it's 5 inches. And from here to here is 5 inches. So I'm going to see if I can zoom in. Okay, so from the end of the shell right here, see the double crochet coming up, I'm going to go from there to the end, and that's about 5 inches. And again, from the gray right here up to the end is the 8 rows, and that's, as you see, 5 inches. So for me, I just put here, mine is 5 inches, just so I have that. Okay, now I'm going to show you how we calculate it. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how I did my calculations. Now they're not exact, but this is how I did it. Okay, so because mine were 5 inches and, you know, both ways, and the gauge, again, is 4 inches, I want to see what percentage is mine. So basically, what's the percentage mine is bigger or smaller if it was smaller. So you just divide 4 divided by 5. Which is 0.8, so it's 80%, okay? So then you take you go down to the sizing, and I'm doing the large. If I was using a size 3, I would chain 106, but I'm using a thicker yarn, so I'm going to have to chain less. So I'm going to multiply the percentage of 106. So I need 80% of the 106 chains. So 106 times 80%. So that's 84.8. Okay, now that's a little on the larger side. I wanted to make this a little bit smaller. So this is a multiple of, I think I figured it out. I don't think she says it, but I think I just figured it out. And I think I just said multiple of 4 plus 2. So I ended up doing chaining 82, because 82 was a multiple of, it's close to the 84.8. It's not far off. I'd rather it be a little bit smaller than bigger, because I did the measurements, and that divides equally into, so 80 divided by 4 is 20, and then plus the 2. So 82 is a multiple of 4 plus 2, which is what the shell stitch is. And so this is how, so I would chain 82 and then follow the pattern exactly the same. Now when it comes to the length of, whether it's the length of the sweater or the length of the sleeves, again, you can just, that's very easy. You just stop sooner or go longer than you would like. But this is a cardigan, so for the main gist is to get the original stitch count. Now this is worked the back panel going up, and then you do the left panel and then the right. You continue non-stop with this one, and then this one you add on, and then just keep going. So pretty much it's the back panel that you're chaining for. So after I chained and did like 4 or 5 rows, since it's for me, I just put it up against myself. If it's not for you and it's for someone else, just measure, and there's a million charts to say what an average medium is. But on here, she gives you this wonderful chart that shows you what the measurements are. So once you do a few rows, after you figure out how many chains you're going to do, just check the measurement. And if you're close, that's great. Keep in mind, this is a cotton acrylic blend, but if you have all acrylic, it's going to stretch. This will stretch a little as well as you're wearing it, the weight of it and everything. So it doesn't have to be precise. So just a real quick recap. Again, if you have a pattern and you're using a different size yarn, this one, my yarn was bigger, so I wanted to see how many chains I needed. I go look at how many chains for the size that I was going to make using the size 3 yarn. I look at the gauge swatch. Then you have to make a gauge swatch. You measure. Mine happened to be 5 inches for 8 rows and 3.5 shells. So you figure hers is 4 inches. So you divide it to get the percentage. Let's just say I was using thinner and mine was smaller. Let's say I only got 3 inches. Okay, so if I got 3 inches, all I would do is go 4 divided by 3, and that's 1.3333. Say, okay, so let's say it's smaller, and I get 3 inches. You would take 4 divided by 3, that equals 1.33, that's percent. And then I would take the 106 and divide it by that, or multiply by that. So 106 multiplied by 1.33%. And so just move the decimal place. That would be about 141 stitches, about. And again, or chains. And again, it's approximate. So again, it has to be a multiple of 4 plus 2. So let's just say that 140 happens to go in perfectly to 4 plus 2, so 142 you can do, or you can go down, you know, let's say I think 136. Yeah, you could do 136 plus 2, so you could do 138. So you could do 142 or 138, but you see they're very, very close. They're not going to make a huge difference, and that's how you size a pattern based on your gauge So you can use any size yarn. So if I wanted to use a super, super chunky yarn for this, I could just by measuring the gauge and doing that calculation. I hope that helped. If you want to see how this came out, please check the link down below in my description box and you can see how my finished cardigan came out. And this pattern will also be linked down below. Excellent pattern. Go check it out. Bye!